a metallic monster 3 stories tall, rolling into battle on 2 colossal bicycle wheels. This was Russia's Tsar Tank, an absolute behemoth designed in 1914 to crush enemy lines through sheer, terrifying size. Engineers believed those massive 9-meter front wheels could roll over any trench, wall, or obstacle in its path, while a rear steering roller stabilized its massive 60-ton frame. It looked like a demonic, weaponized tricycle from a fever dream, bristling with heavy machine guns and cannons. But when it was finally tested in 1915, the grand design collapsed under the weight of its own physics. While the giant front wheels rolled over trees like toothpicks, the tiny rear wheel immediately sank into the soft Russian mud. The massive engines screamed, but the tank wouldn't budge. It was hopelessly, embarrassingly stuck. The military simply walked away, leaving the world's largest tricycle to rust in the forest for nearly a decade before it was scrapped. It was an expensive lesson that in modern warfare, bigger isn't always better. If you love exploring the wildest, most bizarre engineering failures and triumphs in history, make sure to hit that subscribe button right now and smash the like video button. We bring you the craziest machines ever built, fully explained every single week. Drop a comment below on which weapon you think is the most insane, and let's get right back to the countdown. A 2,000-foot-long aircraft carrier built entirely out of ice. In the dark days of 1942, German U-boats were sinking Allied cargo ships faster than they could be built, creating a deadly mid-Atlantic gap. Britain needed a massive, unsinkable airfield in the middle of the ocean, but steel and aluminum were strictly rationed. A British eccentric named Geoffrey Pike proposed a solution that sounded completely insane. Ordinary ice would shatter or melt, so Pike mixed water with 14% wood pulp to create a wonder material called pykrete. This wasn't normal ice. It was as strong as concrete, resisted melting, and could literally deflect bullets. The plan for Project Habakkuk was staggering. It would weigh 1.8 million tons, feature walls 40 feet thick, and house a massive refrigeration system to keep the vessel frozen. It was designed to be completely torpedo-proof. If a torpedo blew a hole in it, they would just freeze more water to patch it up. A prototype was actually built on a lake in Canada, and it survived an entire summer without melting. But as the war progressed, longer-range aircraft and cheaper steel carriers became available. The ultimate ice fortress was quietly canceled, and its prototype took 3 full summers to finally melt away into history. A weapon so cheaply made that it takes longer to reload than it does to manufacture. In 1942, the US military wanted to flood Nazi-occupied Europe with a psychological plague. They didn't build a high-tech assault rifle. Instead, they built the FP-45 Liberator, a tiny crude handgun stamped out of sheet metal that cost just $2 to make. The strategic concept was devious. The US planned to airdrop millions of these disposable pistols inside cardboard boxes directly into resistance hands. The box included comic strip instructions and 10 rounds of 45 ACP ammunition. The Liberator had no rifling in the barrel, meaning it was completely inaccurate beyond a few feet. It was a single-shot weapon that required you to manually pull back the plunger, slide a bullet into the chamber, fire, and then use a wooden stick to shove the empty shell casing back out. It wasn't meant to win a firefight. The sole purpose of the Liberator was to allow a resistance fighter to sneak up behind an unsuspecting occupying soldier, shoot them at point-blank range, steal their actual military-grade rifle, and discard the cheap pistol. Ultimately, the military realized dropping millions of untraceable firearms across Europe was a logistical and security nightmare, and most of them were packed into crates and dumped directly into the ocean. A massive iron gun built to shoot man-made tornadoes into the sky. In the final desperate years of World War II, Nazi scientists were frantically looking for a way to knock Allied bombers out of the sky without using precious ammunition. An Austrian scientist named Dr. Mario Zippermayer believed the answer lay in controlled atmospheric destruction, leading to the creation of the whirlwind cannon, Windkanon. The device was a massive, heavy iron cylinder angled up toward the sky. It worked by detonating a highly explosive mixture of hydrogen and oxygen in a specialized combustion chamber. The explosion was forced through a carefully designed nozzle, generating a high-pressure, high-velocity vortex of air, essentially a localized mini tornado. In ideal testing conditions, the cannon actually worked. It was able to shatter thick wooden boards at a range of 200 meters. The vision was to scale up the weapon so it could rip the wings right off Allied B-17 bombers flying thousands of feet in the air. However, when tested against actual moving targets, the hard physics of the atmosphere took over. The turbulent open air rapidly dissipated the vortex, turning a deadly shockwave into a harmless, gentle breeze long before it reached high altitudes. The project was abandoned, leaving behind one of the strangest anti-aircraft concepts ever attempted: a handgun that fires actual, miniature rockets instead of traditional bullets. In the 1960s, engineers decided that regular gunpowder was outdated. They created the Gyrojet pistol, a weapon designed to completely revolutionize small arms technology by replacing traditional cartridges with solid-fuel rocket propellants. Standard guns experience a violent explosion in the chamber, creating heavy recoil and a loud muzzle report. The Gyrojet worked entirely differently. When you pulled the trigger, a tiny 13mm rocket left the barrel with almost no sound and zero recoil. The gun itself was incredibly lightweight, made of a cheap zinc aluminum alloy, and possessed very few moving parts. But the Gyrojet violated the golden rule of firefights: immediate lethality. Because it was a rocket, the projectile started moving very slowly out of the barrel and required time and distance to accelerate as its fuel burned. If you shot someone at point-blank range, the rocket would literally bounce off their shirt. It only reached maximum velocity and deadly kinetic energy at around 20 meters. Combined with terrible accuracy caused by unevenly burning rocket vents and a skyrocketing price per round, the military rejected it. A few saw combat with special forces in Vietnam, but the rocket pistol quickly became a rare collector's curiosity. A vehicle with no wheels or tracks that literally bores its way through the landscape using giant metal screws. To build a machine that could traverse the most unforgiving, swampy terrains on the planet, engineers stripped away traditional traction and developed the screw-drive vehicle, heavily experimented with by both the Soviet Union and Nazi Germany. The concept was brilliant in its simplicity. Instead of rolling over the ground, two massive hollow cylinders with spiral treads acted like giant corkscrews. As the cylinders spun in opposite directions, they propelled the vehicle forward, backward, or even sideways across surfaces that would swallow a traditional tank whole. These machines were absolute kings of deep snow, thick mud, and treacherous swamps. The Soviet version, the ZIL-2906, was so effective in deep wilderness that it was specifically used to rescue cosmonauts who landed their capsules in remote, inaccessible Siberian marshlands. So why isn't every military using them today? Because the moment a corkscrew vehicle transitions from a swamp onto a hard paved road, the ride becomes an absolute nightmare. The metal screws violently grind against asphalt, destroying the road, tearing the vehicle's suspension apart, and moving at an agonizingly slow pace. It was a master of the extreme, but completely useless anywhere else. An unpiloted, nuclear-powered cruise missile designed to tear down buildings with its sonic boom and rain radiation before even dropping its bombs. During the height of the Cold War, American engineers designed a weapon so fundamentally toxic that it was deemed too dangerous to ever test in flight: Project Pluto, officially named the SLAM, Supersonic Low-Altitude Missile. Most missiles fly high and explode on impact. The SLAM was powered by an unshielded, open-air nuclear reactor and designed to fly at Mach 3 just above the treetops. The sheer sonic shockwave generated by its low-altitude supersonic flight was powerful enough to rupture the eardrums of anyone on the ground and flatten buildings like an explosion. Worse still, because the nuclear reactor was unshielded, the engine directly spewed intense, lethal radioactive fallout out of its exhaust along its entire flight path. The plan was for Project Pluto to fly over enemy territory for weeks, circling around to poison vast regions with radiation before finally dropping its cargo of 16 thermonuclear warheads. Eventually, U.S. military planners realized this was a true doomsday weapon. Testing it would pollute American soil, and if it ever launched, it would guarantee total global annihilation. The project was quietly canceled in 1964. Locked away as one of the darkest concepts of the nuclear arms race. A real, living house cat transformed by surgeons into a walking audio surveillance bug. In the 1960s, the CIA spent 5 years and $15 million on a top-secret espionage project that sounds like a bizarre Saturday morning cartoon. Project Acoustic Kitty. Surgeons carefully implanted a miniature microphone into the cat's ear canal, a small radio transmitter at the base of its skull, and ran a thin wire antenna hidden completely beneath its fur all the way down to its tail. It was a masterpiece of miniature electronic engineering for its time. The problem, which any pet owner could have predicted, was that cats are absolutely terrible at taking direct orders. During initial tests, the cat grew bored, got distracted, and repeatedly wandered off in search of food instead of listening to target conversations. To fix this, scientists performed another surgery to override the cat's natural feeling of hunger. Finally, the day of the first real field test arrived. The CIA van parked across the street from a park bench in Washington, D.C., where 2 Soviet officials were meeting. They opened the van door and released the multi-million-dollar Acoustic Kitty. The cat took a few steps, wandered directly into the street, and was immediately struck and killed by a passing taxi. The project was instantly canceled, proving that nature always wins against military engineering. From giant mechanical tricycles to nuclear-powered doomsday missiles and cybernetic spy cats, history is packed with engineers trying to push technology past the breaking point. It shows just how far nations will go when pushed into a corner by conflict. Thank you so much for watching Odd Machines. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and give this video a huge thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Let us know down in the comments which weapon you think was the absolute craziest, and we will see you in the next video.